Well, you know, I'll say one thing about Stephen Harper. He really motivates people, doesn't he? So, about this time last year, my wife and I were going around collecting signatures on a petition against the so-called Fair Elections Act. And I remember at that time thinking to myself, you know, this has to be as low as it can go. Right, here's an act that threatens to disenfranchise some groups of voters. Here's an act that was supported by at least one act of perjury by an MP before Parliament. Surely we've hit rock bottom. But I was wrong. I was wrong. I can just imagine the Tory brain trust sitting around a cabinet table and they're going, Fair Elections Act? Nah, that's nothing. We can come up with something a lot worse than that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, enter Bill C-51. Bill C-51, an act that is so broad and an act whose name is so long that the name is an act in itself. And to call Bill C-51 an act is a misnomer because, in fact, Bill C-51 is an omnibus bill. It captures at least 8 separate pieces of legislation that will have an impact on your right to travel unmolested, that have an impact on your personal privacy, and ultimately on your freedom as a citizen of this country. And you know, the experts, they're those people who actually know stuff about things. The experts have all been weighing in against this act. And consider this quote from respected law professors Craig Forsese and Kent Roach. This is what they say. They say, we do not accept as credible the claims that the Act's scope is clear. We have serious doubts as to its constitutionality. But we have no doubts at all that this Act will be capable of chilling constitutionally protected speech. Our provincial privacy commissions have also been weighing in against this Act. When we look at this bill, we say it goes too far. The definitions are too broad. The scope of the powers is sweeping, and there is little room for oversight. And you know, the deeper down that the experts drill, the worse it looks. Gordon Galloway of the University of Victoria has found that this bill could open the path to a Minister of the Crown presenting evidence that has been obtained under torture. And we as Canadians have to look at that and say, no, not in our Canada. We need to clearly tell this government the painfully obvious fact that you do not protect our freedoms by throwing those freedoms under the bus. You do not protect our charter rights by violating them, by allowing CSIS blanket permission to spy on Canadians, and by giving 17 different federal agencies the ability to freely share your personal information. So what everybody here needs to do, what we need to do, we need to contact our MPs, and we need to tell those MPs what we feel about an act that sacrifices essential freedoms for the illusion of added security. You need to phone up your MPs and ask them to send you a copy of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, while there's still a Charter of Rights and Freedoms to send. And if your MP is a Tory, you need to ask that MP to, just for once, stand up to the Prime Minister's office. Stand up to the Prime Minister's office and vote for your country, not for your party. And if your MP is a Liberal, or if you know a Liberal candidate, for God's sake, tell them to go and talk some sense into Justin Trudeau. Because Justin Trudeau thinks that he can vote for Bill C-51 And then later on, after he becomes Prime Minister, he'll be able to iron out all those rough edges. But, you know, I don't think he's got the memo. What he doesn't understand is that he doesn't know whether he's going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And in the event that he does not have a majority parliament in the next parliament, he won't get the opportunity to iron out those rough edges. And yet, Justin Trudeau says that he, and by he means the entire Liberal caucus, will vote for Bill C-51, warts and all. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, as a Canadian, as Canadians, we need to say this bill must not pass. Because the day after Bill C-51 is voted into law, Canada and Canadians will be less free. Thank you very much.